Talking Politics. I am Paul Gable. I'm here with my good friend and co-host John Bond Sr. And today we are hosting local attorney Jonny McCoy, who just came off a big victory that we'll talk about when we come back. We'll be back in a moment. Well, welcome back. We're at our studios at 605C North Kings Highway in Myrtle Beach. And Johnny, thank you for joining us, and
appreciate that.
Congratulations to you.
What are you congratulating him about?
I'm congratulating him on scoring a victory against corruption.
Okay.
Well, that's always good. How much did he get?
I don't know how much
did he
got.
make? What did he make?
He won a lawsuit that against various entities, the county, the city of Myrtle Beach, the Sheriff's Department, Coastal Carolina University, the Solicitor's Office, were they included?
I'll tell you what I mean.
About $11.5 million, something like that.
11.5? Wow.
That's what the lawsuit came.
Are you going to share it with us or what?
No, I made history, okay? We made history, all right? Not only, we're still doing the research, is it the largest civil rights settlement in South Carolina history. My partners say North Carolina as well. But it's also the first time that we've actually held feet to the fire in this area. Now, history is still yet to be written on whether or not changes will continue to be made, what will happen to these officers and whatnot. But we talk about money and all this other stuff. Look, I can tell y'all right now, my client's paralyzed and he lost most of his organs in his stomach.
Wow.
His gallbladder, his spleen, he has a colonoscopy bag. He's in constant pain. He has nerve pain every 20 minutes. This guy would give up every dime to go back to the way he was before. Ain't no doubt about that. But what's important is Benton versus City of Myrtle Beach will forever be etched in our minds, our hearts, and in history as a David and Goliath story.
Well, can you give us a background on that story?
Sure. I know Paul's itching to talk about it. It all started with me, and I've never told the beginning of this story, so this is first time here ever. As a nod to my buddy Tim Wilkes, I'll tell some secrets here. But when I first got called on this case, I was just known for being a civil rights advocate, a moderate civil rights lawyer, and I don't mean moderate as in my stance. I mean moderate as in you only get a couple civil rights cases that are actually hooks. Including my own in City of Columbia when I was falsely arrested, and you can go and Google that. It's a long story, but I won, and I moved back here, and I've been watching all of this corruption and stuff unfold around me locally, and I knew that it would only be a matter of time before something like this crossed my path. So I got a call from a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, and he said, listen, they are saying that this friend of mine shot at police and tried to kill them when they came into his house to arrest him for weed. Now, right then and there, I knew, because I had been accused of a crime. You don't believe everything that the police say right off the bat. But what stuck out to me and my friend who was telling me the story is over weed. Over weed. You don't shoot somebody over weed. You go to jail over the night and it gets dismissed because weed is not a drug. Weed is not. Everybody knows that weed is medicine in 38 states in the country. These guys are not running out the door and they're not shooting people over weed. So I go to the hospital to visit this guy to get his story. Never told this in public. When I go to the hospital to get this guy's story, I bring my private investigator, as I always do in my meetings, so this can be confirmed. When I get to the front desk, they say, you can't go up and see this guy. And I said, well, I can go out and see this guy. There's police officers outside, and I'm assuming there's police officers in his room. Why can't I go see this guy? No. He's under guard right now. He's detained. You can't go see this guy. And they start calling the executives of the hospital down. I said, what's going on here? I've visited people in mental health facilities. All the way up to incarcerated prisoners who can't have any other visitors. I know for a fact if there's a police officer, I can visit this guy. Next thing I know, 2 Horry County police officers come down the stairs and a Myrtle Beach cop and an executive who will remain nameless from Grand Strand Hospital, and they go up to the tile in front of me, and with his foot he draws and says, if you cross this line, you're going to jail.
Oh, wow.
You cross this line, you're going to jail.
Now, who said that?
That was I'm an executive at Grand Strand
The
Hospital.
unnamed administrator.
Unnamed administrator at
Okay.
Grand Strand Hospital. I still have his card in my pocket. So I go outside.
Is there any reason why you don't want to name him?
Yes, of course there is. Because I'm still fighting corruption. You don't let people know about your adversaries.
We're talking about the line, where the guy who draws the line.
Yeah.
Who drew the line?
Yeah. No, I'll get to
Okay,
that.
all right.
I'll
I
get
don't
to
want to
that.
interrupt you. Go ahead.
I'll get to that.
It's an interesting story. Go ahead.
So then after this guy draws the line, I walk outside and I call my friend, and he'll always be my friend. He's a good guy, Jimmy Richardson. And I tell Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, you're the prosecutor on this case. What's going on, you know? And Jimmy says, whoa, you know, this guy, we'll get him a bond. You know, it's a weed charge, and he's attempted. At that time, I thought it was attempted murder on police officers, but they had charged him with, you know, whatever they were going to charge him with. And I said, well, he's still entitled to a bond. Let's try to get him a bond. So Jimmy, myself, and the judge, we get a document faxed over to the hospital that says this guy's getting a bond. He's getting a personal reconnaissance bond so that I can go up and see him. So that this thing comes through the fax machine, and all of a sudden they're now escorting me up, and I'm watching them walk faster than me. They're walking ahead of me, and I'm going, I better get up there before these guys do. As I walk in the room, there are the Horry County cops coming out of the room. They had been sitting in there with them. Okay? So the mom tells me, bless her heart, she's passed away from cancer during this. She says they've been sitting here and they have been telling Mr. Benton, you know, because he had just woken up from his coma. Just woken up. They had been telling him, why'd you fire at the police? You fired at the police.
Wow.
So these guys are now exiting the room that they've been in. I'm going in there, and there's a handcuff on the end of the bed. This guy, he has got no muscle, no tissue, barely any tissue on both of his legs. He's laid out. He's got a trach tube in his neck. He can't move at all. He's got, almost all of his organs were pulled out of his stomach, and they still were worried about, there was like a fortress around this guy. Okay, over marijuana. So that was the moment that I knew that I was going to take this case, and that I was going to make sure that this kid had the constitutional rights. I never knew that he didn't fire his gun. I never knew that there was a video on his front porch. All that I knew was that every single officer on the scene said that he fired his weapon, and that's what the police were and the news was saying. All that I knew was they were calling him a drug dealer and a bad guy. And then my instincts of, this stuff has happened to me before. Let's be realistic about what really goes on in society. Kicked in, and I said, this guy right here who comes from a poor neighborhood in a poor area of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, he has just as right and just as cause to be telling the truth or have his truth heard as anybody else who's wearing any type of uniform and conducting any sort of other investigation. And I don't know, and I'm not tooting horns or anything like that, but I've been doing this profession a long time. And other attorneys, they don't pick up the phone. They don't go visit poor people who may not be able to afford taking their case. These types of things are happening more than we know, and we're not getting to these people.
Well, what happened? Tell us what happened. How did the person get into the hospital?
Well, okay.
What occurred that was so severe that he's brought to the hospital? What occurred? What happened?
So basically, a young African-American woman, veteran, got pulled over for a taillight issue, and she had a little bit of marijuana in her car, in her cup holder.
Oh, God almighty.
At that time, the police swarmed. We're in South Carolina. If we have any viewers that are elsewhere, we're in South Carolina. We're the last state to do a lot of things. I had to handwrite my bar exam. No computers were allowed. So marijuana is still illegal here, okay? So this girl was told, either you take us to somebody who sells marijuana or you're gonna be in a lot of trouble, okay? And so this girl says, well, okay, I have a friend who smokes weed, and I can get him to give me some weed. So the police say, here's $100. Give her the money for the weed, light her up with cameras and microphones, and send her into this house, okay? They go in. the audio doesn't work or something doesn't work, so they give her another $100. They send her back in, okay, to this guy's house. So all that's happened so far technically is that he sold $100 worth of weed to this girl. Approximately 6 to, I can't remember how many days later, the Drug Enforcement Unit of Horry County, South Carolina, which is from the 15th Circuit Solicitor's Office, which on that day was comprised of Coastal Carolina police officers, Horry County Sheriff's officers, Myrtle Beach police officers, and members of the Drug Enforcement Unit.
About the county? County too?
Horry County Sheriff's
Okay.
Office.
Well, not the police officers?
No,
Horry
not,
County police?
no, Horry County police weren't there.
Okay.
Horry County Sheriffs. So they, well, Horry County was there because DEU, a bunch of Horry County employees were there.
Well, there's some material, but that story is more interesting than this.
Yeah.
than I
So,
just-
so they go to, and this was all gone over in detail during our press conference. So you can just Google Julian Betton press conference and watch some of these some of this
Say that again,
evidence.
so that.
Julian Betton, Betton press conference. It was live, viral, and it's got all the evidence on there.
All right, so you have a tape of this raid. is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
what you have?
Let's get to that in a second. So what these officers did was they got together and they said, "All right, we're going to go raid this guy's house, $100 worth of weed." And they didn't say that it's now shown, and we went over it in detail in the press conference. They didn't assign somebody to knock. They didn't assign anybody to announce. They didn't go over any assignments whatsoever.
Well, who
Just
was the
crashed right
supervisor?
through the
They
door.
just crashed right through the door.
Crashed right through the door?
So you've heard
They
exactly.
have a warrant?
Well, they had a knock and announce warrant. So you've heard exactly what led up to this point. So you'll see a video here in a second. They pull up in the yard. They get out of their vehicles. They all have AR-15 or whatever they are.
AR-15.
Yeah, I think they have some kind of assault rifle.
It's an assault, yeah.
And they put a witness on the ground who was working on his moped right in front of the house. And they come up on the porch. They don't knock. They don't announce. One of them opens a screen door, and the main DEU agent knocks open the door. They immediately go inside and they start unloading on Julian Betton. They say he fired at him. We had the gun tested that Julian had in his house, and it was never fired. And I think we have a clip of.
Did they shoot him?
Oh yeah, they shot Julian.
How many times they shoot him?
They shot at him 28 times.
20! Like,
They had to pull the triggers individually 28 times, and they hit him 9 times, and he lived.
9 times.
And 9 times.
Doesn't say much for the accuracy of our police officers.
No,
does it?
no.
But look, we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll come back with the video, and then we'll come back to talking. We'll be back in a moment.
Warning signs. Throughout our lives, we learn their importance and what they mean. Flashing lights alert you of construction on the highway. A loud siren lets you know about a fire drill in your office. Cell phones can even inform you when bad weather is headed your way. However, a lot of people aren't familiar with the warning signs for the 4th leading cause of death in the United States: stroke. A stroke can happen in a moment's notice, so it's important to detect the warning signs. If you spot facial drooping, sudden arm weakening, or trouble speaking, like slurred speech, then it's time to call 911. These signs can come on suddenly, so get help immediately if you identify any of these signs in yourself or someone around you. The longer a stroke goes unnoticed, the more damage is done. That's why it is important to act fast. To learn more signs and symptoms of stroke, go to the American Heart Association at strokeassociation.org.
Well, welcome back. We're talking with Jonny McCoy, who just won a big lawsuit against the county and the city and some people. And we have a clip here that he was talking about. We're going to run the clip fast of the illegal entrance of this guy's house.
Okay. So here they are.
Here they are,
They
all
put the-
decked out and thinking they're Rambo.
He opens the screen door. They peer off, bam.
Wow.
Right after that,
How many people they had there? How many people were in that raid?
the number of people
Wow.
who were actually on the porch and in the raid was 6, and 3 people
You
went
mean
in.
for $100?
$100 worth of weed, yeah.
They have all of that?
Yeah. We've taken this up to the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, the city of Myrtle Beach. They of course, they did the right thing. They filed a immunity appeal, and it went up to, this went through Trump appointee judges. And in Richmond, Virginia, the Court of Appeals said all of this over a nickel and dime pot dealer. And another judge said, this is one of the most horrendous set of facts I've ever seen. Another judge said this is horrendous or outrageous.
Did they give them qualified immunity though?
No,
They
of course
uphold
not.
that. Good.
And they said, quote, we give qualified immunity just about to everybody.
Yeah,
that
but-
was a direct quote from the judge.
But you aren't getting it.
But repeat that. How many shots?
28
28
shots,
shots?
9 of them hit Julian.
And
they-
nobody hit none of those shots hit a police officer.
No, but one of the shots did go through the back of the building, exited, crossed a basketball court, and hit an apartment behind
Oh my
the building.
God! Wow.
Yeah, you can see on, oh, by the way, the body cameras, there were no body cameras. We had to have that surveillance, thank God, from some power, that I don't understand yet. Without that video, we wouldn't be sitting here, and Julian would just be sitting in a chair. But I tell you what, the officers were instructed by their commanding officer in DEU not to wear their issued body cameras. The officer from the city of Myrtle Beach said that he left it in his glove compartment. The other officers who were working perimeter, all in city of Myrtle Beach uniforms, they all have to have their body cameras on, but they all turned on right after the shooting. Simultaneously.
Who did they think was behind that door? Who did they think? It was a big drug dealer? Didn't they know it was only a $100 buy? I can't understand
John,
this.
they don't care who's behind the door.
I understand that, but we're talking about civil rights.
You're
we're
not
talking about a
understanding.
person's rights.
You're not understanding.
I mean, how did they do that?
This is the door here. This is the civilian here. The only thing that they were caring about was who was on this side. This is the us versus them mentality. The police were saying, this is our game. This is the way we do it. They testified in all their depositions, this is normal. This was how it was always done. How many other people were...
For $100?
$100 worth of weed. This is the time...
This is how it's done? And $100 worth of weed?
This is the time that they got... This is the time that they got caught by a
It's
surveillance team.
unconscionable. I can't believe that.
Well, it happened. It happened...
I understand. I saw it. I understand
happened a
that.
mile down
but
the
it's
road.
joggling my mind. I can't believe they did that.
A mile down the road.
I just can't believe that they did that. I just in my mind.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, you have a guy like you do
Well, so
something
this
about
all
it.
falls- this
What am
all
I going to
falls-
do about it? I'm just going to talk about it.
This
That's
all
what I can
falls
do.
on me. This all falls on one guy who's already been falsely arrested, already has PTSD. You think I like doing this
No,
stuff?
of course not. I know.
Somebody else has to step up. Some of our community leaders who I've supported have to step up and say, listen, what is going on with this officer still working here?
I understand. I'm sitting in a building here where my friend can't even rent this building, a warehouse for a church. They deny him. A friend of mine who pays taxes, is an upstanding citizen, and they strike him down. That's
Well,
what I
look,
can't
we may
understand.
be sitting. We're
don't
sitting
understand.
in the city
I
of Myrtle
understand,
Beach.
But you got me rolling now.
We may be
No, I
in the
like
most
you rolling. Somebody needs to get
corrupt
pissed
city
off.
in the United
No,
States.
I'm not taking any side.
Here's
here,
my
but I'm taking
problem,
the side
John,
of-
with what you say. Okay, and I agree with you. Some officials or people that you voted for should stand up, but they don't. We need the citizens to stand up and vote these clowns out of office and put some people in who will actually be public servants.
Y'all have been trying to do that.
I know.
Y'all have been trying to do that. What's the problem around here? We just can't get it done. What are we supposed to do? We can either do one of three things. We can all put cameras on our houses. Every single one of us need to put cameras on our houses.
We don't want to be.
That's number one.
We want to be a camp. We don't want to be a concentration camp. We want to be a free citizen.
I get that,
We
but
want to
they're
enjoy the liberty in which we have. And what I can't
What
understand-
liberty? What
But we
liberty
don't
do
have any
have?
liberty when this kind of stuff takes effect.
Live free, the liberty to go
Live
and do what
free.
you have to
You
do.
have enough liberty right now to put cream in your coffee,
Look,
John. You can't even rent this building to who you want
that's
to.
beside the point. That's not the point. The point
Disillusion.
is the point is I'm a delusional. Is
No,
that what you're saying?
disillusion.
Me of all people, me.
Disillusion.
Okay, disillusioned. Of course, in this particular case, I'm disillusioned. Absolutely.
But let's go back.
I can't believe that this happened, and thank God this man Benton had you to represent him. You told me that he got shot how many times? 5 times?
29, John. He got.
No,
he got,
they shot 29.
28. They hit him 9.
They hit him 9
But what-
and he lived.
But what I'm
And he lived.
But what I'm saying is, there's going to be more of these cases.
But why did they shoot? They should have some method where they don't shoot. The guy didn't point anything at
Do
them.
you want to know why they shot
Did
this
they
guy?
point anything at
Let me
him?
tell-
Did he point anything at them?
No, you don't get $8.5 million if somebody pointed a gun at you.
I don't know. I'm not in the case. You did the case. What did the police say? They were pointing a gun at him?
Okay, so
What
let's
did the
break it
point-
down.
what
So
did
the
say?
police said first that he shot at him. We had the gun tested from inside the house. He didn't fire any bullets.
Did he have a gun in the house?
Yes, of course he did. And
What, was it licensed?
No, but he was allowed to have it inside the house, or else he would have been arrested and buried underneath the jail for it. But now let's listen. So, so the gun was never fired. They said he fired it, and they never fired it. So that's lie number like 3. They said they knocked and announced. They were wearing police uniform. They said that he fired his weapon at him. Then they said that he raised his weapon at him. All those things were found to be false. The Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia, said, "quote that is my factual finding that your client lied. Your client lied. That was a factual finding. These people gave sworn depositions under oath. They gave sworn statement, or they gave statements to SLED. They gave statements to the police department.
Hey.
Do you know what we do in Horry County to people who mislead police? Does anybody know somebody who's been put in jail for lying to police during an investigation? Obstruction of justice.
Yes.
Can anybody name a famous case recently where somebody got 10 years for obstruction of justice? Can you?
No, never mind.
They can't name
Can
it.
you name one?
Yeah. I want to hear it from I don't want to say it. Can you yell it from the back?
Nobody.
What's that? Roger Stone. Then you've got, we just had one in Horry County. We just had one in Horry County from the Moore case. The guy lied to
Right.
the cops.
That's right.
The guy lied to the cops for 20 minutes. And I'm not saying that I side with the guy or anything. He lied to the cops for 20 minutes and he got 10 years in jail because of the result of the lie. These guys lied over and over and over again. A judge ruled, I find that they lied.
And
Nobody went back and questioned them.
And these-
nobody's talking to them.
these guys are
What?
certified police officers.
Certified? What does that mean? Yeah,
They have the certification from the state. is
I
what I'm
hope
saying.
so, but yeah,
You know what I'm saying.
The only thing
they
that I-
wouldn't
the
be on
only-
the job if they weren't. They
the
were
on-
police
I don't
officers,
care.
and they lied.
I don't care who they
On
are. They
probable
rose
cause.
their hand. They
They-
said, "I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth."
In
And
court.
it came back to not only be factually inaccurate. A judge said, "It is my ruling that they lied." And then we're just allowing these guys to just continue
I can't
signing
understand.
warrants.
Well, that was my point. They are police officers. They lied.
Well,
they were found to have lied, and now we're still having them swear to things being true on warrants.
They were covering
And-
themselves. They were covering
Yeah,
themselves.
Of course, they were covering themselves, but the point is, if a guy has been found by the Fourth Circuit
Well-
Court of Appeals to have lied, how the hell do you take his deposition? I mean, how do you take his statement on probable cause?
Gunshot and so forth must have been a terrible, terrible scene. And especially this man, Benton, getting shot that many times. And not only that, he goes to the hospital and he's in bed. They have a guard there, and on his bed was a handcuff, you tell us.
Yeah, at the base of
I
the
mean,
bed.
where is he
It
going?
wasn't attached
Where is he
to
going
him.
with 9 shots?
Wasn't
Where is he
attached.
going? Where is he going?
All right, on that note, we got to take a break. We'll be back.
American libraries have more books than any other countries on earth. But the US has 5th lowest literacy rate in the developed world. 2 out of 3 haven't read a book in over a year. You can travel all around the world when you step into the library. Expand your horizon, navigate your life. Unplug, unwind, read.
Welcome back. We're here with Jonny McCoy, who just won the big lawsuit for Mr. Benton against the various groups involved in the drug enforcement unit here through their corrupt and illegal actions in raiding his house. Jonny, you got a total of what, 11 point, not you, but the lawsuit settled for a total of 11.5 million?
11.25.
11.25 million. And while there was some insurance reserve fund and what have you, we're talking about the illegal actions of police officers cost the taxpayers $11.25 million.
But what happened to the police officers?
In some way, shape, or
I mean,
form.
what happened to the police officers? Did anything happen to them? Were they arrested?
So-
were they reprimanded? Were they giving a party? Were they given a raise? What happened to them?
So in a nutshell, the police officers, for the most part, are all still working in some capacity. Some of them have been moved. I think maybe one officer has retired. The whistleblower retired. We had an officer on the scene who said, I've been in North Carolina for decades. I just came to the city of Myrtle Beach. I've been here 6 months. I've been on DEU for that time. I just witnessed the whole thing. He came up on the porch as it was happening. He wrote an affidavit, told us exactly what happened. He never told SLED that they knocked and announced. He never told SLED a lie. And then he comes forward to us, he tells us, and then he says, I gotta leave. I can't stay here. And that's what happens. We don't have enough protection for good police officers to come forward. There needs to be some kind of government assistance for police officers to peek their head out and say, listen, what I saw was wrong. Because when they peek their head out and they say, look, when I saw was wrong, they risk their wives and their husbands and their children's medical insurance. They risk their salary. They risk shame in the community and crossing the blue line. We have got to do something to protect good police officers. You understand what I'm saying, John?
Yes.
You hear what I'm saying?
I heard you.
I know that. I know. We're all pro police officer here. All of us are pro police officers. What happened is dangerous for good police officers. Can you imagine people seeing this video and knowing this could happen to me because police officers feel like they can do what they want without repercussions? That is so dangerous because you know what? We're in a battle for the Second Amendment right now in the state of South Carolina. We got a lot of lawful gun owners, and you know who's going to come to take our guns? Is people dressed like that, holding those type of weapons, and eventually, if you don't come out using that battering ram.
But the bottom line is, what happens to the police officer that does these illegal things?
John,
these
nothing.
officers now, what happened to them?
Nothing. You
Nothing
have
at all.
SLED, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. They interviewed them and they got their story. They have never gone back, to our knowledge, to interview them again. SLED is supposed to be investigating a criminal prosecution when they interview officers right after a shooting. That's what they're doing. They're gathering criminal evidence. Nope, we don't find enough here. We don't find enough for a warrant. You're not supposed to allow all these leisures. Go home, go relax overnight. If you roll up on a murder scene, the first thing that the officer does is stand right here. What's your name? Blah, 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 unless they ask for an attorney.
But if they let them get away with that, can you imagine what else they let them get away with?
John, I think about it every single night. Every single moment of my life, I think about it.
I personally am pro-police 100%, but when you see things like this occurring, you shake your head. And what happened to them? What happened to them? There's no administrative charges against them. Nothing happened. They were just let go again. The police officers are still doing the same thing.
John,
they still have the same
they're
job.
still working
When we
for
see
the
what
same-
they've done.
How
they broke the law. They really broke the law.
And I want to say something here.
The police officers broke the law.
Because we had a huge press conference. We laid out in detail over an hour all of the evidence. We played deposition excerpts where one of the officers said, quote, "It is not the law to knock and announce. It's just not." That's a direct quote. And he was the one with the battering ram. We played deposition experts of the commander of the unit who said, I didn't punish him because my officers did nothing wrong. And he's still in a supervisory role in the 15th Circuit Solicitor's office down there in Georgetown. What I mean to say is that people do not come forward and say anything because when nothing comes about, when nothing happens, when all that takes place is money gets shuffled around, and then lies are allowed to compound and continue to be extended. The people who say, look, this is wrong, I want to say something here, this may be wrong, they tend to retract and say, at what cost? They're not going to do anything about it, because people don't blow the whistle to get somebody money. People blow the whistle to correct a wrong.
One police officer did.
He blew the whistle. He blew the whistle to change the what was going on, the culture. He didn't blow the whistle just for Julian. He blew the whistle so that the whole thing could change, so that these officers would be disciplined. And now this guy did it, and he's sitting there thinking, well, a big check was written, but I'm not whole, because nobody sat there in front of a podium in a police uniform and said, we're not going to tolerate this. Nobody sat there and said, this kind of stuff should be used as an example in the police academy of what not to do. It's just simple. And if that would have happened, you wouldn't have me sitting here. And what I mean to say is, we would have never done a press conference. Well, I would never do this show, and I would do it. We'd actually talk politics on Talking Politics. I would never do this show if something was done. But I actually care about this community. I actually care about justice. I actually care about what goes on here. And the only way that we can hold them accountable is through this camera, this camera, this camera, and get it out to as many people as possible, and hope and pray that somebody finally does the right thing. Because if they start doing the right thing, maybe it's just a little bit of the right thing. Maybe they just put them on administrative leave. Maybe if they just punish them a little bit, then eventually somebody will pick up the baton and start firing. And then eventually, when you shoot somebody 29 times, put them in a wheelchair, take out all their organs, that person lies to cover it up. Eventually, that person will be placed in the same steel handcuffs that I was in downtown Columbia in 2009, and I was forced to watch a suicide, which brought me to where I am today, which is fighting for the little guy, which is what I've been my entire life, which is what I was when I was arrested, which is what Julian Benton is, and which is what everybody in this room is. We are the little guy pounding on a drum saying, how much more do we have to show and prove to you guys?
The police officers that did that probably knew nothing was going to happen to them.
That's right.
And that's the sad part of the entire thing.
And nothing has.
And that's sad. Because as we just said, we're all pro-police. We're not anti-police. We're pro-police.
That's exactly right. I'm
However,
representing a cop right now.
there are some that should really get a new job if they did what they did to this poor guy. And I want to thank you very much, John, for coming by and telling us a story that really amazed me. I never knew this. I didn't even see that tape that just was played. And that's really boggled my mind. I thank you very much for coming here and being with us. Next time you come, let's talk about politics.
I would love that. We got a lot of talking politics to do right here.
The problem is we have run out of time. And Johnny, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll be back next week.